A pleasant good day to all parents and teachers. Thank you for taking the time to look at our instructional video. We are the observation specialists, and today we will be taking an in-depth look at the various observation tools available for you to use to observe students. But before we go any further, I would like to introduce you to my team. We have myself, Emily Sunarine. I am Miss Gogeta. There's Annika Jack, Miss Persistent, Kayla Glinton, the Determinator, and Shalanda Williams Lee, who goes by Miss Carter. So, before I hand you over to my colleagues, I will just like to give a brief description of what a toolkit is and why it is important. According to the Education Endowment Foundation, an observation toolkit is basically putting all the different types of observational techniques and methods into one designated place. So in the toolkit we created, you will find running records, anecdotal records, time sampling, event time sampling, rating scales, and checklists, just to name a few. And the purpose of having a toolkit such as this is to help you, the teachers and parents, effectively observe the young children in your care. So these tools can help you document and assess students' behaviors, while others may help you document their progress and give an insight on their development milestones. I will now hand you over to Ms. Williams Lee, who will be talking to you about checklists.
From the list of items found in the toolkit, we have designed 4, the first of which is a checklist. A checklist is an observational tool that systematically collects information on students' various developmental domains by marking off on the list of skills, knowledge, and competencies attained. The checklist was developed to implement an observation tool that is not hampered by demands on the teacher's time and provides consistent direct assessment of the student's measure of attainments. Also, the design includes a space for comments that can be used to note valuable information, such as the strategies to address challenges, the activity or focus, and the significant behavior observed. Pertinent information on the checklist are the student's name, age, the observer's name, the location or class in which the observation is being conducted, and the date. The date would be the final day in the school year when the checklist is fully completed, since it caters for 3 chosen months of observation. The instructions are simple. The observer will check the items attained by the child using the following under each month. NI means the item was not introduced. 1 means it needs more time to develop. 2 means it is developing. And 3 means it was achieved. 4 developmental domains are covered on this checklist: socio-emotional, cognitive, physical, and language, under which are items that indicate the student's attainment so that the observer can measure or assess its level. Now, under socio-emotional, we have items such as the child engages in cooperative play, shows self-confidence and displays pride in accomplishments, respects the right of others and waits his or her turn, is able to identify and use words to communicate feelings or emotions. Under the cognitive, some of the items are the child knows all the letters of the alphabet, is able to read basic 3-letter words, recognize numbers 1 to 10, and demonstrates critical thinking to find solutions to problems. For physical motor domain, the child is able to trace straight, curved, and zigzag lines, uses child safety scissors, walks up or down stairs with good control to alter feet, and is able to dress self after using the toilet, which is self-help skill. For language, the child should be able to retell a simple story in the correct sequence, speak clearly using correct past and future tenses, should be able to interpret pictures to tell a story, and attain print awareness, such as being able to hold a book correctly to read. The justification for the inclusion of the checklist is that it provides results that are clear and useful feedback which may reveal gaps or challenges not identified by other observational tools. The checklists help observers to focus their effort on developmental domains being assessed. It is relatively simple and easy to use and is a validated instrument that compares assessments and progress over a given school term. Using data collected from the checklist, teachers can analyze it and develop strategies to modify or improve the delivery of instruction for higher levels of students' achievement.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I am now going to explain to you the rating scale. As Ms. Sinarine would have said earlier, the rating scale is one of the tools we can use in our classroom to record our observation of a child. Let's look at an example of a rating scale, why we will use it in our classroom, and how we can use it to record our observation of a child. This is a rating scale. This is a numerical rating scale. First, we will need to fill out the very important information like the name of the child, the age, where we are observing the child, and so forth. Then we are going to select a specific area in which we want to observe this child. We can select a skill, a behavior from her developmental domains. Under the list of skills, we are going to list a number of things that we are expecting this child to have been performing. We are then going to observe the child in our natural environment, whether we look at the child playing or we talk to the child. What information we need to gain will determine how we are going to observe the child. Next, we are going to use the skill to record our observation. If the child can perform this skill between 1 to 2, then the skill is absent. If it is between 2 to 5, it is still in progress. Or beyond 5, then we can know that the skill is present. For instance, we might ask a child to say her ABC, and she might stumble out of the 26. According to how many she repeated, we can use the scale to determine what level she's at. After using the scale to determine, we write down what level the child is, and then we can record our comments to give further details. But why would we use the rating scale in the classroom? The rating scale basically rates your child using a numerical scale. We can use it to rate the different kind of behavior or skill a child may display. It is very easy to use and can be used by the teacher, parents, and even the students themselves. As we look through research, there are many who attest to the use of the rating scale in the classroom. For example, Burns 2007 stated that it is a very simple technique to be used in the classroom to assess the behavior and level of performance of the children. Not only is it simple to use, it is also easy to understand. In the example that we looked at earlier, we can basically see what area a child advances on and what area she will need to work on. This also gives us an idea of the level in which our class may be at, and with such information, we the parents and teachers can work towards improving our classroom. We can also use the information to increase our students' performance because it tells us exactly where the issue or problem might be. I will now turn you over to Ms. Clinton.
Thank you so much. Now, parents, practitioners, we will present to you another very useful observational tool called anecdotal records. Anecdotal records help practitioners observe a specific behavior that a child is displaying. According to Bandel et al. 2014, anecdotal records are the most commonly used form of observational tool by practitioners. When practitioners use anecdotal records, specific needs of students are identified, and thus lessons and activities can be formulated to address these needs. So, How does an anecdotal record look and how is it used? The anecdotal record is written as a short story in the past tense. The observer writes his or her name, the time, the date, and the location of the incident. The child's name and age is also written. The observer records exactly what was observed in the order the incident took place. After this, the observer writes recommendations or actions concluded as a result of the observation. The observer then signs the anecdotal record and keeps it in the child's file. Please note that many practitioners use note cards to quickly jot down the behavior as they observe it. The child's name, observer's name, the date, time, and setting is written on the observation card, along with what has happened during the incident. Later in the day, the practitioner transfers the information to the official anecdotal record form. The National Center on Quality Teaching and Learning, 2014. Thank you for listening. Now, Ms. Sunarain will come to conclude our instructional video. We do hope that you include anecdotal records in your toolkit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clinton. The observation tool I will be discussing is time sampling. And you may ask yourself, what is time sampling? Well, time sampling is basically observing a child or a group of children for a selected length of time over an extended period. So with this method of observation, you, the observer, makes a record that lasts for a certain length of time. So it could be 30 seconds or a minute. And then the observation is made at regular intervals. So it could be every 10 minutes or every hour. Let's take a look at when time sampling should be used. And you should use this method of observation when the behavior that you are looking at is not easily counted. So if there's a behavior that occurs at such a high rate that it is difficult to keep count on it, then I would recommend using the time sampling tool. So why use time sampling? Well, first of all, it is very adaptable and can be changed to suit the individual settings. This means that a teacher can choose to observe a student whenever she wants. She can do this during the lunchtime periods for an entire week, or she can choose to make her observations for 1 minute every hour for an entire day. And this leads me to my next point, which states that it is a quick method for recording information. So you as the observer do not need to be attending to a student's behavior all of the time, since time sampling provides an estimate of behavior rather than the documentation of every occurrence. Another benefit of this is that, as mentioned previously, it can be used for individuals and groups. So you, the teacher, can use this method to observe an entire class at once. You can choose to observe how well the students transition between activities, or you can choose to observe their social interactions during outdoor play. The options are there for you to explore. Time sampling also focuses on a selected aspect of behavior to reveal the frequency of that behavior. So this basically means that all the observer is doing is looking at a particular behavior to see how often it occurs. There is no need for you to have any special background knowledge of the child or anything like that. And last but not least, the counts of behavior can be used for research purposes. So once done consistently, Anyone will be able to easily analyze the behavior and see if any changes have been made. So you can use this information to compare the student's behavior with others that are of the same age to determine if the child is progressing normally or if there's a need for special intervention. Okay, so here's a look at the time sampling record sheet. It has a place for the child's name, age, date of observation, and the name of the observer. And where you see the space for focus, that is where you will describe the behavior you will be looking at. You will then have to decide on how often you will check to see what the child is doing. For example, 1 minute every hour. And during this time, you will observe the child and record whether the behavior occurs or does not occur at the very end of the interval. And making comments will also help give an idea of what the child was doing at that particular time. And for this observation method, you will need a timer of some sort, such as a kitchen timer, alarm, or tape recorder with a sound to indicate the end of the interval. And you can also use it to alert you as to when the observation time comes around. We have come to the end of our presentation. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to look at our instructional video. But before I go, I would like to conclude by saying using observational tools in the early childhood education settings allows teachers and parents to get a more accurate reading on a child's true developmental progress. It can make educators more aware of their teaching practices and of the needs of students in their classrooms. It also equips teachers with detailed data which can be used to make guided decisions with parents and other practitioners. That is why we endorse using the tools we created in the toolkit.